Welcome back to the channel. Rangers are top of the league. Let's talk about it. So, the weekend, Rangers hammered Hearts 5-0 and Celtic had a last gasp winner. A couple of goals against Motherwell to win late on. And I'm sure we're going to have lots to talk about. My main thing is, Paul, mate, we just don't seem to be playing well. We can't, and the last podcast we done, we talked about the need to just get the results, and then we went on to draw one each at home to Kilmarnock. But if you're watching that game, watching the game at home, I was just like, you could feel the equaliser coming to the whole game.
Yeah,
you could feel it coming the whole game, and then we kept missing chances, and I was like, they're going to bloody score here, man. I just, how that way you're watching it and you just know that there's this like inevitability to come on to scoring for some reason. And at this point in the season, we keep saying week on week, we just need to click into gear and get that run.
Aye.
And you're starting to wonder, like, is that coming?
Aye. That's my fear. Well, it's not my fear. Here's my thoughts. My thoughts are we're not going to click into gear. He's had all season to get the team to click into gear. And there's many reasons for this, right? No just blaming Brendan, no just... I think the board need to take a certain amount of accountability for recruitment and blah, 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 right? But I think that there's been many different factors that have come into this. We've spoke about injuries. We've spoke about the players that we've lost and we've not replaced. I think we've also, at times when we need a win, or like that Kilmarnock game, time to grind out a 1-0. We get scored on late on. It's happened a few times this season. Motherwell at home happened as well. I've seen Brendan do this in the press conferences. See, sometimes you need to realise that the momentum is not going to go your way, and what you need to do is create a mentality within the club, within the squad. And I think this last sort of week, Brendan seems to have clicked into this sort of siege mentality. He's starting to say stuff like the narrative for this team has already been written for them. We're looking to write our own story. We've got 11 games left, and if we win all our games, it's in our hands, and we'll win the league and all this sort of stuff. All of this is true. I get it. So this is, I think that we are now in a sort of desperate place where I think that the support should or could accept the fact that we are not going to play attractive football, we're not going to blow teams away, but if we can grind out results like we did at the weekend against Motherwell, and going to Motherwell away from home isn't easy, and it wasn't an easy game, then we might stumble over the line. As much as I don't want to see that happen, I think if we are going to win this league, it's the only way that we're going to do it. It's going to be a nasty thing to watch. I think it's not going to be pleasant, but that's my thoughts on it. Like we spoke 2 weeks ago, we need to turn the corner, we need to click into gear. We win late at Hibs, we win late here, I just don't think we're going to click into gear.
No, I agree, and I think that, for me at this point, honestly, the type of football, at this stage of the season, it doesn't matter, because you start going, the most important thing is to get over the line and win the trophy, for God's sake. You're getting to this point where you're going, doesn't matter to me if I have to watch 90 minutes of crap, as long as we get the 3 points at the end of it. And I think that one of the interesting things I've noticed with Celtic, though, is it seems like we are better away from home than we are in front of our own fans. We can't seem to handle the pressure from our own home crowd, which is a bad sign for a team that you want to win the league. And you're right, though, Rodgers is trying to do something, but it does come off a bit desperate, a bit like this is getting to the point now where we're not looking great for us. And in the other side of the city, you've got to say credit to Rangers for being consistent. Since that Philippe Clement came in, he's been, they've been pretty relentless with the results, and I think, beating Hearts 5-0 at home, for as much as it was somewhat predictable, because that's kind of what happens with Hearts and Rangers over the years. I think that, Hearts are the form team in the league. You go and beat them 5-0. That's a statement. That's a statement for a team that want to go out and win the league, and at this point, you need to put them at favourites. But I was trying to think to myself, like, what do you think the biggest difference is between since he's come in and beforehand, and what as much as we've been poor, why is it that Rangers with us? Because I remember at the start of the season when with Beale, and they were like, Dessers is terrible, and these players are absolutely horrendous. They've got, and he's managed to find some sort of way of clicking them into gear. And I see all this rhetoric about Rodgers and the fans being like, well, the board's not backed him and they've not signed the players. To me, man for man, Rodgers still has the strongest squad in the league. So see this idea that we're short and we're weak and all that, I don't really buy it. Because if he can get if Clement can get a turn out of Dessers and all that, why can't Rodgers has still got Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly, players like that are top quality players in the league, and it's just not, as much as we can say there are 100% other factors. I'm starting to wonder if Rodgers is the man for this job.
Well, I mean, I want him to go. I don't want him there. I think his brand. I think to sort of answer that, before I get into sort of my thoughts in the squad. The brand of football that he's playing is so shit and so pedestrian, and dominate the ball and pass it and be patient and wait for your opportunities. Like Philippe Clement has come into Rangers and made them so direct. It's like over the past couple of seasons, there's been chat about Rangers being really one-dimensional under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and then that continued under Beale. The diagonal balls for the centre half, trying to get the wing backs in and get the ball into the middle, and it felt very one-dimensional. Philippe Clement has come in and made them play faster and play through the park, progress up the park as fast as you can to sort of these players that we're talking about. Lammers is still absolutely nowhere near it. I think that the style of play suits Dessers. He still can't get on the park a lot of the time. He's on the bench and that. So I don't think that Philippe Clement has come in and radically changed this squad. I think he's come in and he's gave them an identity. I think he's come in and he's made them really direct. And Celtic and Rangers are head and shoulders above everybody. So if you have somebody that comes in that gives you a clear game plan, makes you, every player on that part knows exactly what they're doing, I would say that both teams should be winning every game except against each other. Like we did under Ange, and of course we'll get slip-ups like Love Street and going to Livingston, and these sorts of things will always happen. That will happen to Rangers as well, but we should be winning and convincingly. So that's my thoughts on guys like Cyril Dessers. I think that Clement, it looks like he has come in and looked at what he's got and is playing to the strengths. Ange did a similar sort of thing at Celtic. Looked at the way Kyogo plays. How do we play to his strengths? How do we get Callum McGregor in the place? How do we get Matt O'Reilly? How do we get all these guys in the right places? Like Jota, what's his strength? We can play to that. Brendan Rodgers seems to want the players to fit what he wants, and that to me is alright if you're going to go down to England and have £1 billion to spend, and you can build a squad in your own image, and you can and sort of rely on your ego and the way that you want to play. But we're not in that sort of category. I think the thing that we are missing is a clear game plan, a clear identity, and the players going out knowing exactly what they're doing and not being given this creative freedom, you know what I mean? And saying to Greg Taylor, just go out and express yourself. He's not good enough for that. He needs to know what he's doing at every phase of play. Under Ange, we looked like when you are here, your teammate is going to be here. We would hit blind balls and it would go into space where we knew a player was. I have not seen that at all. We look like when we got on the ball, we look scared. We look like we don't know where we're putting it. We kind of are running a bit like heedless chickens, hoping that something sort of pulls off. And I think that's the real difference. We have went from somebody like Beale versus Ange, where Ange has a clear identity and game plan and his squad knows exactly what they're doing, and Beale's is a wee bit sort of what the fuck are they trying to do? What's the identity? What's the game plan? We don't really know. And it's been totally flipped, because now we're watching a Celtic team going, what is the identity? What is the game plan? And we're looking at Philippe Clement's Rangers side going, I know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to come out and they're going to go fucking hard and try and get that first goal, then try and get that second goal. And it's kind of like what we used to do. So I'm wanting Rodgers out. I want him to go. I want a younger, fresher, better, you know, like I want somebody that felt like when Ange came in, a breath of fresh air. I think like, how do I say this right? And people might differ their opinion. Ange was an absolute blip for us. See, if you look at the last 20 years, we have done nothing but scrimp and scrape and try and somehow get magic out of not a lot. Like when you think about, you know, after Stratton, Tony Mowbray came in, was a Premier League manager. We barely signed anybody. I think we signed 2 or 3 players, a couple of loans. Like then we went to Lennon, a cheap option. Then we went to Dyler, a cheap option. Then we went to Rodgers, right? And we had this sort of 4 years or 3 and a bit years where we really, I think we went for it a bit from this fear of Rangers emerging for the Championship. I can only imagine that's why the board went for it. You know, we signed Scott Sinclair, Moussa Dembele. We really like kind of backed them in that sort of first phase. But then we went back to Rodgers, went back to Lennon, a cheap option. And then we imploded in 2020. Now, Ange came in and things changed for like 3 seasons or 2.5 years, but we have went right back to type. We have went right back to giving Brendan Rodgers. Now, he's not a cheap option. He's a lot of money, but the players that they've bought are not good enough. Instead of spending £7 million on one centre half, we split it across 2 centre halves, and the 2 of them have turned out to be duds. We've replaced Jota with Yang and Palma, not good enough. Who have we replaced Aaron Moy with? Bernardo. Okay, I would be like, maybe I like for like. I think Aaron Moy was way better, way better football player, way more experienced. There's different sort of attributes to the 2 of them, but I like Bernardo as a player. But we didn't replace Giakoumakis, or we replaced Giakoumakis with nowhere near good enough. So I don't know if Rodgers does have the best squad in the country anymore. We seem to have replaced quality with quantity in certain areas, but in others just subpar. Not to mention Abada's problem, Hatate's injuries. So, like, I don't know if we were to look at the squad on paper, take out Carter Vickers, take out Hatate, do we have the best squad in the country? I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know, mate.
No, I get your point.
That was a lot there. That was a lot, sorry.
No.
You sort of posed me with a lot of stuff to talk about there.
No, mate, like, I agree with what the vast majority of what you said, and like, I get what you're saying in that last point about the squads. My thing with it, though, is just the fact that, you know, he's came in a team that won a treble, and I know that there's been, like you say, you're totally right in saying that quantity has replaced quality, but at the same time, the level of drop off has been unacceptable. We were 9 points clear. Do you know what I mean? And but it's not like, it's different if you lose an away game at Livingston, or you lose the odd away game here and there. But drawing at home, do you know what I mean? Drawing games at home, and that's the kind of stuff that loses your league title. You can't do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I agree.
You can go from 9 to 6. But going from 9 to being 2 points behind is not okay.
Yeah. So to put that into perspective, we were never 9 points clear. We were 8 points clear. They had a game in hand.
Yeah, fair.
So we're talking about they won their game in hand. We're talking about 5 points. There's this myth about the 12-point swing or Celtic are imploding. It's like, look, they had a game in hand. There was a point in time if you look at the table, but I think it's a wee bit of a misconception, right? It's not as statistically, it's not as bad as what the media are trying to portray, right? But the performances have been worse for me. Like, I don't know if we merit the points total. That, like, watching some of the games, I'm like, how are we winning? How did we win at Easter Road? How did we win at the weekend? I'm like, oh my God. Like,
it's been horrendous.
It's been horrendous to watch, especially at home. I think that there's a combination of things why that is. There's a certain amount of the support that can't hack us getting beat, can't hack us being second best. They've never really experienced it in any sort of long way. COVID season, they weren't in the stadium to express that, you know. So there's that element of it. There's another element that the drop off, like you're saying, has been so dramatic. It's been shocking, that people are disgruntled, and I think rightfully so. And I think that another aspect to it is that these guys that we've brought in are not mentally up to the job. They can't hack the pressure of playing at a big club. Now, I'm not annoyed at Lewis Palmer that he's not as good as Jota, or at Bernardo that he's not as good as Moy, or at, that he's not as good as Giakoumakis. It's no these. This is the thing. Like, it's absolutely pointless getting annoyed at these guys on the park. Like, Thiago Home is a young player. Like, Kwon. These are young guys. Like, they've been brought in to develop into a player that could make the starting 11 at Celtic, and because of the mismanagement of the club, we're being forced to put them on the park, and we're hanging them out to dry, and these poor guys are getting booed after 60. Do you know what I mean? How good is that going to feel? How much is that going to hit your confidence? So there's a couple of things that really, like, I don't really like, is that we're not doing the team any favours by getting on their back, by like getting anxious at misplaced passes, like the grumbling at Celtic Park. Like, Celtic Park can be one of the most supportive and amazing stadiums. You get the stands turn on you, man. It's toxic. It's absolutely toxic, and that's the sort of place that we're in now.
Well, I think a lot of your point about accepting the fact that if we're going to win the league, it's going to be a scrap, and the fans, we need to accept that, because as soon as we accept that, we start going every game, get behind the team, like make sure that we're making an atmosphere that they lift the team.
This is 2008. See the season that Tommy Burns passed away. Rangers were a good Rangers team. That midfield had Stephen Davis, Barry Ferguson and Lee McCulloch in it. Their back four had David Weir, Carlos Cuellar. Like, they were a good team. They went to the UEFA Cup final. We were starting with like Lee Naylor, you know what I mean, and like Scott McDonald, who was a great player at the time, but nowhere near Daniel Kuzan. Or like, they were spending big money. They brung in Pablo Mendes, like Portuguese international. I think that season we were bringing in Barry Robson. Again, a great player for Celtic, but it shows you at the time, we scrapped that. I remember celebrating so many last minute winners in that season. We were not playing good football. I'm sure we were scoring last minute winners against Gretna.
We were, yeah. So back in with a free kick.
I feel like that is the example. Now, I was week in, week out back then. The stadium was electric, because we were like, we need to win this title. It's for Tommy Burns. Like, their last 6 weeks were incredible, and I feel like we need that. But see, for that to happen, the guys in the stands and the guys in the park need to come together in some sort of synchronicity. Ange did it beautifully. He galvanised the club. Rodgers needs to do that.
But you put the nail on the head with this problem here, though. Is we talked about this right at the start of the season, this feeling towards Rodgers that he abandoned us, and now we need to galvanise behind this guy and this team, and it's just, that's the problem. Is when it comes to that, it's like that feeling you're talking about and what Ange's done, and that feeling in 2008. You need a guy at the helm that the fans trust and like, and we don't. Do you know what I mean? We don't trust them.
Well, in 2008 we had Stratton, and the support never really took to Gordon Stratton particularly well. I think the thing in 2008 was Tommy Burns.
Aye.
That was the big thing. I feel like Stephen McManus was a really good captain that year. And guys like Paul Hartley, I know I mentioned him earlier in a negative sense, but Barry Robson came in, really changed that second half of the year. Like, bear in mind, like, people be like, Barry Robson scored against Barcelona in the Champions League. I know, but he left us the next season and went to Middlesbrough and failed.
Yeah.
So he's not a world class player. That's my sort of point earlier. Like, they were bringing in.
The thing is, though, right, he played for the shirt.
He grafted.
Do you know what I mean?
He was a grafter, mate. And Stratton's team that season needed guys that could just grab and grind and go for it. We beat them by 1 goal in the last 2 games of the season. We needed to win the last 2 games. We are in the same situation right now. To go to Rangers, if they beat us in these last 2 games, they deserve to win it. Their big test comes against us, because that is their mental block. Beating Hearts at home is par for the course for them, right? tonight against Kilmarnock will be a test, but the real test for them is going to come in the 2 games against us. One at Ibrox, one at Celtic Park. We need to win both of them. That's my feeling. If we win both of them, I think we'll win the league. If we drop points, I don't see us winning anything. And if they beat us in both of their games, they deserve it. And again, we need to accept that, mate. We need to accept that.
It's on a knife edge. It's on a knife edge. But what I will say is, either way, Celtic win it, they don't. I think Rodgers needs to go at the end of the season.
I would agree, mate. And it's and there's a bit in my mind there that just come up and went, well, if he manages to win this league title, that would be a huge achievement in itself, based on what has happened. Not just the squad, not just the injuries, not just the trouble in the boardroom, the Green Brigade stuff where they were banned for the stadium, the disjointedness amongst the club. It all, if he can get us over the line, maybe he would get another year. And then if he does, we need to back him. We can't be making statements like, oh, the players that we wanted just weren't available. No, fuck that. Like, go and get them. Like, make it so that the club like Aberdeen with a guy like Bojan can't say no. If it's Shankland, they can't say no. Just make it that way.
Yeah.
Like, go and just put the shit in front of them. So I would like to see him go. But if he does stay, we need to back him.
Well, that's it. I mean, you talked about the style of play, right? For me, like, when we talk about his system, he's obviously went, this is the way I want to play, regardless of who I've got, this is how we're playing. But the players haven't took to it. The players that he's got right now have not took to this style of play. So if he's going to say he needs different players, he needs a different team. I love Kyogo and I would keep him 100%, but does he suit the play that Rodgers wants to have? Probably, from what we've seen, probably not.
Well, I mean, we're 20 minutes. Why don't we go half an hour and we talk about
we
talk about like the changes that have been made, because Adam Ida to me is absolutely tailor made for this team, because what I'm seeing is that I love what's happened to Liam Scales this season. He's not good enough, but so the difference between Carol Starfelt and a guy like Liam Scales is that Liam Scales could go to Aberdeen, could go to Kilmarnock, could go to Hearts, could go to Hibs and look like a great player. Could probably go to the English Championship and look like a great player in a team where he's defending against high balls. Or he needs to win the one-on-ones in the air. He needs to win the duels on the ground. I'm like, he's good enough for that. Where he falls short for me is his passing. That ability to bring the ball for the D at the box, take it to the sort of midfield and move it into the next phase of play. Move it on to somebody like McGregor. Not what's happening, you're seeing guys like McGregor and O'Reilly having to drop so deep because the range of passing for the centre halves is not good enough, that they're picking the ball up with their back to goal. So they've only got a couple of choices: either put it back to the centre back or move it out to the wing backs if they're there, or take it back to Joe Hart. And we're piling all of this pressure on ourselves. So like a guy like Adam Ida, we can sort of bypass and hit him with the ball, and it looks like he can take the ball and then he can hold it up, and then he can bring a player like Kyogo into the play. So Kyogo's been way more effective the last while where he's been playing in the sort of 2-up. We went back to 1-up on Saturday. So we played 2 games where Kyogo was in a 2. He scored twice in 2 games. Then we went back to 1-up the weekend. Kyogo reported missing. Adam Ida comes on and the game totally sort of shifts, because we can then hit balls over the top, like Greg Taylor's cross into the box, and you think he's going to win it in there. Kyogo's not going to do that. We can't hit a diagonal into the box and hope that Kyogo's going to nick a header. He just can't do that. So I feel like if we can... Like, Kyogo's still effective. He could still be effective in the Celtic team, just not as the lone striker. That's how I feel about it. I agree. I mean, there's a couple of like long-term things to look at there with what we want to be doing, because, you look at like the way we play. Like, are you going to have 2 strikers playing up front going forward? Is that the long-term game plan? Because when we talked about the way that, Florian Kilmarnock came in and been direct with the instruction in making use of what he's got. I think what's really interesting to me, right, is
see this whole idea of, be patient and we'll break them down type of thing. It suits the SPFL teams because they want to they're not going to chase you.
We're playing against a low block.
They're just going to sit in. So the thing about Ange and Clement as well, to his credit, is the fact that the idea was fast, intense, sharp, forward passing, right? And we talk about the difference between Celtic and Rangers and everyone else. What is that? Why is that? It's because these players are the players that Celtic and Rangers have they are quicker, they are faster, because they're on 10 times the amount of money. Do you know what I mean? They are better players, right? So how do you utilise that? You don't utilise that by playing at the same tempo they want you to play at. You utilise that by being fast and by being direct.
Yeah.
Because they can't, because the Kilmarnocks and the Aberdeens, they can't keep up with it. It's too quick. Do you know what I mean? That's why Andrew's style of play was so effective, because even when we had, not as strong a team, we were hitting them with an intensity that they couldn't handle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And this is what Rodgers needs. When he first came in Scottish football, back when we won the trebles and all that, that kind of style of play hadn't been at Celtic for so long with the way that he passed the ball, but it was the same sort of style that he has now, but it was faster, it was a little bit quicker, and maybe he had certain players that were better quality, but it was Celtic had that for years, and now since he's first come in, I feel like it's evolved a wee bit to being that way of, if you're going to break teams down, you need to be quick, you need to be sharp. You can't, if you're playing at home with Kilmarnock, they want you to pass the ball between your centre halves.
Aye, 100%. And I think, when you think back to previous seasons, the amount of times that I would, we'd score an early goal and teams would crumble, which is something that's happening with ML the City right now. It's happened to us in the past. If we do get an early goal recently, we seem to just go nowhere with it. Earlier on in the season, away to Hearts, and we get an early goal and everything just goes our way. But the amount of times in years gone, the last couple of years especially under Andrew, we will just run the legs off, so we don't get the early goals. Now at half time, I'm thinking 75 minutes is going to hit, and this Hearts team, Hibs team, Kilmarnock, whatever, Aberdeen, they're going to be so tired that the game's going to open up. That doesn't seem to be happening under Rodgers, because we're not making them run enough. We're allowing them to go into their formation and just sit in front of us and just let us play the ball side to side in front of them, and we don't carve them open, we don't challenge them, we're not putting in difficult, making them run, making them chase. We're not doing that, and so sometimes it looks like we could pass the ball all day and we'll never score a goal. That is totally down to Rodgers. That is completely down to Rodgers.
It's a lack of evolving for him, though. I think that's the issue. And you can talk about needing better players and needing players to fit a system, but I think as a coach, he's failed to utilise what he's had. Kyogo was by far and away, for me, the best player in Scotland. It was he was the difference maker, and you're looking at a guy like that. Put your ego. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I mean? Just because he's now in a situation where Rodgers is probably going, I can't believe we're even in this situation. He's probably thinking, I didn't really see this coming. In terms of the way that because you need to remember, we had 2.5, 3 seasons of Rodgers where he won everything. So he's probably coming back and going, this is going to be a doddle. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he did. He meant see you in May.
Aye. Aye, this is going to be a doddle. I'll do well here. I'll win a treble. I'll win a few trophies. I'll get back to England. That's what he was thinking. And now he's going, man, my reputation's on the line here. So
I think what maybe he's thinking's been, every other treble winning Celtic manager is a legend at this club, and I'm a villain because I walked away. I'm going to go back and I'm going to make that right, and I'm going to be a Celtic legend. I think that's what he's thinking. But again, it's the same mindset of I'm just going to go back and win everything, and then I'll be a legend.
Yeah.
And it's, you know...
Well, that's the thing, is he came in the first time, when he came in the first time...
It's the same thing, but just, I think, a slightly different mindset. Ange came in having to prove himself. He had everything to prove. Everybody thought, who's this guy? Postecoglou, what? Like, who? What? Oh my God, this is a joke. And the guy had everything to prove. And these types of motivations are important to individuals. They're important. We're human. We're all human. Like, all these players that we're talking about, all these names that we're throwing about, they're all human beings. And you need something to get you through difficult situations. Whether that be a vision, a system, like a mindset, you know. I watched a video the other day, and we're at 30 minutes, so we can wrap on this. It was the Viaplay Cup final last season, Celtic versus Rangers, and it was like the dressing room before, and Callum McGregor was saying to the players, we know exactly what they're going to do, and we know exactly how to deal with it. And we need to run faster, like get your one-on-ones, like win your duels, blah, blah, blah. And I was just sort of sitting thinking, like, that is everything that we're not doing this year. And how has that changed? Because McGregor's still there, so he's still the captain, and even his forms went away. Guys like Matt O'Reilly's forms have started to slip. I think the common thread here is Brendan Rodgers, a change in coach, a change in that backroom, and so... It does feel like he's the one that needs to go, and that's the change that needs to happen.
It's just a bit. It's like it's almost everything's just a bit lackadaisical. Everything's a bit like, you know, like we'll kind of like it was almost like there was this fire in the team, and you just don't see that anymore. And that does ultimately come down to the manager. You can talk about all the things we spoke about, all the other issues we've had, but he's the guy that comes down at the end of the day to get the results, and it's not happening. But I tell you what, we're in for an interesting last 11 or 10 games or so, and we'll see how it plays out. I mean, hopefully it goes away. But this is the thing about football. For everything about it, it's like being in a title race is exciting. It shouldn't be a thing of we should be miles ahead of them. That's not how it works. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but we're not. We should be. You know, we had a whatever head start. And the finances are healthy, and they're not. You know, they're ticker taping shares. They're, you know what I mean? And like they've burnt through all the soft loans, and the equity and how much their actual business is worth is absolute dog shit, right? So we should be miles ahead. Yeah, but we're not. So,
but it makes it
focusing on that negative of the failures of the last decade, and you know. Isn't going to do anybody any good. Aye. We can do that at AGMs. We can do that at times when we're not playing football. But I think a lot of the fans are bringing that to the stadium, creating that nervous, toxic atmosphere. And I would like to just see a sort of like rally cry, maybe for the Green Brigade, for all the podcasts, forever, just to be like, guys, see, even if there's a misplaced pass, we need to be like, come on. Get it back, win it back. No, oh for fuck's sake, because that oh for fuck's sake really gets on young guys, really plays on people's mentality. They're scared to get the ball. We want them to be wanting the ball. We want that fight, you know. We want that fire that you're talking about.
And the fact is, like, do you want to stick it to the board and the players, or do you want to win the league? That's the thing. What means more here? Because to me, watching them win the league is worse than, you know, whatever happens. We can deal with the board and that later.
That's what I was going to say.
You know what I mean?
Let's deal with them in the summer.
But right now, do we want to see Rangers lift the league title? Because that's what's happening here. So we need to do our bit, and you know, that's what it all comes down to. But I will say, like, what I'm saying is it's exciting that the last sort of 10 games or so, every goal, every kick, it matters. Everything's on the line, and that's what you love about football. Hopefully it goes our way, but it's exciting to watch it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure it'll be good for us on this channel. So it's all good stuff. And it's good to be back, like, recording things. I do plan on bringing back one-on-one interviews sooner rather than later. So watch out for that. We're closing on 1,000 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do feel free to click that and leave us a comment on what you think we've said here. Do you think Celtic? Who do you think will win the league? How do you think it's going to play out? Let us know in the comment section below, and we'll have plenty more content coming your way. So thanks for watching.